We all know Maradona was an incredible player, but what was his childhood like? And how did he become the player that he is? Well, let's take a look back at Maradona's childhood in today's episode of Football Stories. Diego Armando Maradona was born on October 30th, 1960, in Lanús, a small town outside of Buenos Aires, Argentina. His father, Diego, worked as a factory worker and a footballer. His mother, Tota, was a homemaker. They lived in a one-bedroom house with their two sons, both named Hugo, and their two daughters, one named Rita and the other named Maria. Life wasn't easy for the family. They were poor and often went hungry. But despite the hardships they faced, it was a happy household and young Diego was loved by everyone. When Diego was just 2 years old, his father bought him his first football. This sparked a passion in Diego that would last a lifetime. He would spend hours kicking the ball around the streets with his friends. Despite his small stature, Diego was already showing signs of the great player he would become. He was incredibly skilled with the ball at his feet and had an uncanny ability to find the back of the net. Unfortunately, Diego's father died when he was just 8 years old. This was a devastating blow to the family, and they were already struggling to make ends meet. Diego's mother, Toto, was now left to raise 5 children on her own. She was a strong woman and would do anything for her kids. She took a job as a maid and cleaned houses in order to make some extra money. With this extra income, she was able to buy Diego new boots and make sure he didn't go hungry. At age 9, Diego was already playing for the local youth team, Los Cebollitas. He was too good for his age group and was often called up to play for the senior team. In 1976, when he was just 15 years old, Diego was spotted by scouts from Boca Juniors, one of the biggest clubs in Argentina. They were impressed by his skills and offered him a contract. Diego signed with Boca and moved to Buenos Aires to live with his brother. Life in Buenos Aires was tough for the young Diego. He was far from home and missed his family and friends. He also struggled to adapt to the playing style of the senior team. Despite these challenges, Diego never gave up. He trained hard and eventually made the starting lineup. On October 20th, 1976, Diego made his professional debut for Boca Juniors. He came on as a substitute in a match against Talleres de Córdoba. It was a big moment for the young player, and he didn't disappoint. He scored 2 goals in the second half and helped Boca to a 3-1 victory. The news of Diego's amazing performance spread quickly, and soon he was being called up to the Argentine national team. On February 2, 1977, Diego made his debut for the national team against Hungary. He was only 16 years old and became the youngest player to ever represent Argentina. Unfortunately, Diego's time at Boca Juniors was cut short when he was accused of taking bribes in a match against River Plate. The allegations were never proven, but Diego was suspended from football for 3 months. Despite this setback, Diego's talent was undeniable and he was soon snapped up by Spanish club Barcelona. In 1979, Diego made the move to Europe and began playing for Barcelona. He was part of a star-studded team that also featured players such as Johan Cruyff and Ladislau Kubala. Together, they won the Copa del Rey in 1980. However, Diego's time at Barcelona was marred by injuries. He struggled to stay fit, and this caused him to miss important matches. In 1982, Diego was transferred to Italian club Napoli for a then world record fee of $5 million. Diego's arrival in Naples was like a rock star coming to town. Thousands of fans lined the streets to get a glimpse of their new hero. Diego was playing for one of the most popular teams in Italy, and he knew he had to perform. He didn't disappoint. In his first season with Napoli, he led them to the Coppa Italia. However, Diego's time at Napoli was not without controversy. He was known for his passionate displays on the pitch, and this often got him into trouble with the referees. Diego was also involved in a number of scuffles with fans of rival teams. Despite all the drama, Diego was loved by the Napoli fans. He was seen as a breath of fresh air in a sport that was dominated by Italians. Diego was also involved in charity work, and this endeared him to the people of Naples even more. In 1986, Diego led Napoli to their first-ever Serie A title. This was a remarkable achievement as Napoli were playing against some of the best teams in Italy. Diego was the star of the team, and he was rewarded with the European Footballer of the Year award. Off the pitch, Diego was living a more controversial lifestyle. He was known for his love of fast cars and beautiful women. He was also a chain smoker, and this took a toll on his health. Despite all the partying and smoking, Diego was still one of the best players in the world. In 1987, he helped Argentina win the FIFA World Cup. This was a dream come true for Diego, as he had always wanted to win the World Cup. Unfortunately, Diego's time at Napoli was coming to an end. In 1991, he was diagnosed with heart problems, and this forced him to retire from football. Diego was devastated to hang up his boots, but he knew he had no choice. He had played his last game for Napoli against AC Milan. The match ended in a 1-1 draw, and Diego was carried off the pitch by his teammates. This was an emotional night for Diego and the Napoli fans. They knew they would never see him play for them again. After retiring from football, Diego tried his hand at managing a team. He managed both Sevilla and Racing Club, but he was not successful in this role. Diego then returned to his beloved Napoli and became a coach and part owner. Under his leadership, Napoli won the UEFA Cup in 1999. Tragically, Diego passed away in November 2020 at the age of 60. He had been suffering from heart problems for some time and eventually suffered a cardiac arrest. The news of Diego's death sent shockwaves around the world. Millions of people mourned the loss of the great player, and many saw him as more than just a footballer. He was a symbol of hope and inspiration to many. His legacy will live on forever. But what about his childhood? What was it really like? Well, we've spoken about it throughout this video, but let's sum it up. It was tough. His father died when he was just 8 years old, and his mother, Toto, was left to raise 5 children on her own. But despite the hardships they faced, it was a happy household, and young Diego was loved by everyone. He developed a passion for football from a very young age and would spend hours kicking a ball around the streets. His talent was undeniable, and he was soon playing for the senior team at Boca Juniors. He was just 15 years old when he made his professional debut and became one of the most famous footballers in the world. Although Diego's childhood was tough, he never gave up on his dreams. He was determined to make something of himself, and he knew that football was his ticket out of poverty. He was incredibly dedicated and would train for hours on end. This dedication paid off, and he became one of the greatest players of all time. Many people think that Maradona's childhood was full of luxury and privilege. They have no idea about his humble beginnings and the struggles he faced. So next time you hear people talking about Maradona, remember that he was more than just a footballer. He was a symbol of hope and inspiration to millions of people around the world. His story is a reminder that no matter where you start in life, if you work hard and never give up, you can achieve your dreams. Thanks for watching.